says?
Real American beer.
Yes, that is a picture on top of Hulk Hogan.
Very nice.
Do you remember the Hulk Hogan I Am a Real American song?
No.
I am a real American, fight for the rights of every man. When we used to be a country, Alice, before you and your pansy gorgeous ladies of wrestling came around. Anyway, we had an impromptu tasting, me and Be a Man guy, Harmon, named after Harmon Killebrew, by the way. We killed a brew tonight, too, right? Right? Tested at an impromptu tasting while I was in between. It was one beer. It's good beer. I'm for it. I think it's great. It reminds me of unostentatious beer. Beer tasted like beer, and I'm all for it. I am done, unless they bribe us, with beer that tastes like heavy tree bark. I'm done with that. It's very puffy. It's very... I can't...
Like IPAs and stuff. All the...
Yeah, I'm kind of done. I mean, I can get in the rhythm. Like, obviously, you give me, like, this last Saturday or Sunday or Friday, the weird one-off day where there might be a few drinks passed, then I'm not going to fight anybody off, obviously. But I am absolutely for a beer that tastes like a beer. It reminds me of that my lawnmowers don't work, because it was nice to have a beer while mowing the lawn, but neither of them work. So
maybe I'll let you get your lawnmower fixed this year.
From a fix-it guy?
Yeah.
Ooh. This is when I want us to hit any bit of landscaping is what I'm looking for. That's what I want. That means we've made it. I've made it. I'm somebody.
I like gardening. I just don't have that much time. So that's the issue, mainly.
Well, I'm going to get us a garden.
I was talking to the kids about it because they were saying they wanted, now's the time to like start little plants inside, little seedlings, so that we can put them in the ground right after the danger of frost and, have them all ready to go. We'll be ahead of the game. That's like what people do who know what they're doing.
Nice. Who's that, James? Okay. Last one down there. Doesn't let the dog go near the taco meat, or else it's curtains. Not that I'm going to eat, because I'm getting in shape. I have to lose 70 pounds in 4 days. Okay.
I've been being really good.
I know you've been being really good. Are you ready? Alice, today was, Pete Hegseth in the dock in front of the Senate, and there was some good stuff there. It really was. It is interesting. Half the battle, I think, is people just going too far. Hegseth is a flawed guy, right? He said he'll have an occasional beer, as a matter of fact. An adventure will ensue.
And he seemingly enjoys the company of women.
Yes, I think that is fair to say. And so that's how a lot of this started, with them coming right at Hegseth, one way or another, and all like the people who really, I believe, that the national audience has like parted from, and they don't ever want to see again, like Mazie Hirono. This is how that sounded.
I'm a legal adult. Have you ever made unwanted requests for sexual favors or committed any verbal or physical harassment or assault of a sexual nature?
No, Senator.
Can you guys let the dog out, please? Let the dog out. Are you texting her?
No.
Okay,
I'm talking to the chat.
Hold on, sorry about this.
Well, but it's interesting because the chat
is
says,
not who I want to let the dog out.
in the chat says, a guy who likes to drink beer and have sex with women, what a freak. And Tommy says, so weird. But that's true. And I replied, that's the only kink the left hates. It's true. Anything weird and crazy, dog collars, cross-dressing...
Oh, totally.
Polyamory.
Sam Brinton, there's nothing
they're all for all of that. It's all great. But
can I ask you something?
Straight men and women who enjoy having sex is like, dude, that's a bridge too far.
It's so funny that you say that, because Mazie Hirono is really this odd Puritan in this. And like she's asking, you're right. She's saying, did you do these like raw heterosexual things? Listen how she asked this question in. The first question, Alice, is supposed to be a damning question, But really, it's how straight people date.
Being a legal adult, have you ever made unwanted requests for sexual favors or committed any verbal or physical harassment or assault of a sexual nature?
Now, hold on. Unwanted requests. How do you, as a guy, know that it's unwanted?
Yeah, how do people ask each other out?
Right. How
And
do you...
by the way, like, not for nothing, but, you know, I think it's like an SNL sketch where, like, an ugly guy does something
Right.
and Tom Brady does
Right.
the same thing, and it's only harassment when the ugly guy does it. I'm willing to go out on a limb and venture to say it's typically not unwanted when Pete Hegseth asks someone out.
Well, I think that's true, but also at the same time, like that's how you find out if it's wanted when you go in for the kiss. When I was coming up in the 90s, every contemporary chick my age always said, "Don't ever ask a girl to kiss her. Just go in and kiss." And like it never happens. Like in any movie anywhere, or any romance novel, that the gentleman says, "Might I, possibly burden you with a." You kiss the girl, and if she doesn't want it, she'll either dodge or you get the Heisman or you get maced. And then you realize, okay, she didn't want. And like the idea that this would be, was it unwanted? That's what like romance is with people with happy like love lives. It's the going out and the edge and changing the nature of the relationship with physicality, and you're rolling the dice. It doesn't always work out. Mm-hmm. Unwanted.
No, Senator.
Have you ever faced discipline or entered into a settlement relating to this kind of conduct?
Senator, I was falsely accused in October of 2017. It was fully investigated, and I was completely cleared.
I don't think completely cleared is accurate, but the fact is that your own lawyer said that you entered into an NDA and paid a person.
But also, look how the worm is turned. It's like what is this like haggard thing? Did you attempt to make an advancement upon the young maiden? It's this weird tribunal. It seems like it's like in the Victorian times. Did she consent immediately to our forwardness, sir? It's like, Jesus, you humorless, freaking, disgusting, ugly brutalists. That's what they are. Brutalist people. That went on like that. It didn't end there, though. It kept going. Tim Kaine, of all people, decided to be the hatchet man. This is amazing. And by the way, Tim Kaine is, I always thought this too, he's a slightly less puffy version of Tim Walz. Mm-hmm. And there's something happening there. I'm just saying.
Thank you, Mr. Hegseth. I'm looking forward to this opportunity to talk. I want to return to the incident that you referenced a minute ago that occurred in Monterey, California in October 2017. At that time, you were still married to your second wife, correct?
I believe so.
And you had just fathered a child by a woman who would later become your third wife, correct?
Senator, I was falsely charged, fully investigated, and completely cleared.
So you think you are completely cleared because you committed no crime. That's your definition of cleared? You had just fathered a child 2 months before by a woman that was not your wife. I am shocked that you would stand here and say you're completely cleared. Can you so casually cheat on a second wife and cheat on the mother of a child that had been born 2 months before, and you tell us you are completely cleared?
Senator,
how is that a...
So this might work. One, if you're not somebody who looks as oddly puffy as he does and like weirdly sexually amused about it. Two, if you're not a member of the current Democratic Party.
Right.
It's like absolutely like amazing. And like it's not,
we've been through this.
Right.
We've all decided. I mean, current Democratic Party going back to the 90s.
Who do you think who was his running mate? It's Hillary Clinton.
Right. So the decision has been that we don't care about people's sex lives anymore. That's been the consensus now, coming from them, from their side of the aisle, for close to 30 years now.
Absolutely.
Complete clear.
Senator, her child's name is Gwendolyn Hope Hegseth, and she's a child of God, and she's 7 years old.
And she was,
glad
and
she's here.
you cheated on the mother of that child less than 2 months after that daughter was born, didn't you?
Those were false charges.
Well,
It
no,
was fully investigated, and I was completely cleared. And I am so grateful for the marriage I have to this amazing woman behind me.
You've admitted that you had sex at that hotel in October 2017. You said it was consensual, isn't that correct?
Anything,
You've admitted that it was consensual, and you were still married, and you just had a child by another woman.
again,
How do you explain your
completely
judgment?
false charges against me,
No,
fully investigated, and
Can you believe these people like think that at this day and age that going after this guy on moral crimes?
Mm-hmm.
You were immoral, sir. You were betrothed to another Frig year do you think this is? This is the year of, sorry, like as you were saying. Sorry, that's old-fashioned, quaint wedding, faux pas that he was into. Yeah, it's like, it's...
And by the way, all the accounts of that time period say that he was extremely inebriated, and it seems to me he should be pressing charges against her for forcing
I like this, Alice
on
Shattuck. I
him.
like this. I like this.
it was completely clear.
You have admitted that you had sex while you were married to wife 2 after you just had fathered a child by wife 3. You've admitted that. Now, if it had been a sex...
Like, what is the strategy behind this? You've got this old, puffy, wafy theater guy yelling to the young, handsome, veteran, non-coward guy who has been pretty public about a lot of the stuff, who has then tried to find God and turn stuff on. You can believe that, not believe it, etc. But where do they expect the win is? Now, I know that they said, okay, Tim Kaine Walls, get up there and try to make him lose his bleep.
Mm-hmm.
But you are not winning hearts and minds. In a day of viral content, you're not going to have this old puffy guy yelling at him about sex crimes. Like, there was weird Puritan... It's not going to work. I mean, everybody in that building is, to one extent or another, a certain kind of whore. And for us to pretend it's just so, I don't understand. Other than to try to rattle them, I don't understand. But of course,
But that's all they have, isn't it? Like, at this point, don't you sort of feel like, I mean, and maybe I didn't watch all of today's stuff because I was busy, but don't you sort of feel like the fuss about Trump nominees is like they're going through the motions of pretending they object to it just so they can say they did? But don't you feel the power has sort of gone out of it a bit?
Oh, totally.
Like the energy that was behind the Kavanaugh stuff, that like he's an evil predator.
And this was
like
why
the
I think
energy there, like it's not here. They're like they know they're supposed to oppose the evil Trump nominee, but they're sort of like, okay, I mean, do you deny that you consensually had sex with somebody after getting somebody else pregnant? I guess not. Like, what?
No.
They don't seem to have the passion that they used to have for opposing Trump.
No,
honestly.
and I believe that that's because there's no wind behind the sails of the Democratic Party right now. Or Democratic media. People do not care. Here's Liz Warren.
In other words, you're quite sure that every general who serves should not go directly into the defense industry for 10 years. But you're not willing to make that same pledge?
I'm not a general, Senator.
You'll be the one, let us just be clear, in charge of the generals.
Also, like, this old thing has had its turn, too.
She's so bad. Like, but that's what I'm saying is it's like there's just no oomph behind any of this.
Right.
And it's funny because one of the things I had sent you before, like all the Pete Hegseth nomination stuff was happening today, was the Democratic Party has, in the sort of autopsy of the election results that they've been going through, where they've been analyzing how things have been going, they have found one bright spot of Kamala's campaign that they feel is the carry forward thing to do. The DNC has hired, you're not going to believe this actually, frankly, but Do you want to guess which part of Kamala's campaign the DNC has now hired because they thought they did such a bang-up job that they need to bring that onto the National Democratic team?
Joy? Brat?
Close. The Democratic National Committee, according to Axios, is tapping veterans of the wildly popular @KamalaHQ social media team for a new rapid response push ahead of Donald Trump's return to office. Bush is the latest sign of the party's efforts to rebrand and bring in new audiences after a disappointing 2024 cycle. So the people responsible for Brett and the little dunks on Twitter and TikTok and stuff, the Kamala HQ.
Yes, I believe me, I remember.
Team, that is what they think was the best part of Kamala's 2024 campaign.
Who were too scared to leave.
They've now hired them at the DNC, and they are leaning into that strategy going forward. The account will be run by the new rapid response Fact Post News initiative @Fact Post News. Will try to combat online misinformation and respond to Trump administration actions by pushing out memes, videos, and graphics. The account will be run by many of the same people who led the @KamalaHQ social media account. @Fact Post News will start on X, Threads, and Blue Sky and will eventually expand to TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram.
Good. I think they should keep it to Blue Sky. Absolutely. So Kirsten Gillibrand, and by the way, I think all these Kirstens and Kristens need to make a choice, one or the other. Kirsten Gillibrand is asking him, she's berating him, browbeats him as to his stance, why women shouldn't be in combat. And in doing so, I believe she has proven that women should not be in combat, should not get full citizenry, and should not have the right to vote anymore. And actually, I am now for The Handmaid's Tale. This lady has, it's such a beautiful moment.
Military should be allowed to serve without limitation. You've said yes to that question. But then in all of these other circumstances, you've denigrated active duty service members. We have hundreds of women who are currently in the infantry, lethal members of our military serving in the infantry.
Yeah, lethal.
But you degrade them. You say, we need moms, but not in the military, especially in combat units. So specific to Senator Cotton's question, because Senator Cotton was giving you layups to differentiate between different types of combat. And specifically, as Secretary, would you take any action to reinstitute the combat arms exclusion for female service members, knowing full well you have hundreds of women doing that job right now? And the standards, your 2-mile run, Tom, is about the Army Combat Fitness Test. It is not the requirements to have an MOS 11 Bravo, which is the infantry. These are the requirements today for people serving in the industry, men and women. They are gender neutral, and they are very difficult to me in the industry. Men and women, they are gender neutral. And
they're gender neutral.
They are very difficult to meet. They have not been reduced in any way, and our combat units, our infantry is lethal. So please explain specifically, because you will be in charge of 3 million personnel. It is a big job.
Mark in the chat says hundreds. Wow.
Yeah, and she said, have you considered their feelings? It's like, no, because we're guys. We over here quietly, we're doing a real military. The part we're letting you play in is a slightly different one, and he kept his best to keep a straight face with that stuff. And it's just like, it's so incredible. Don't you understand? No, it's gender neutral. It's all equal, and it has to do with it's so perfect for her to say this because this is her taking a shot.
Gay rights, loud and proud.
Gay rights. I remember that.
Listen, lady, just freaking. Oh, God. What will somebody let women in?
Phil in the chat says now checks not only don't belong in combat, but also not in the Senate.
Correct. He's absolutely right. Somebody let these women know that the way to garner as much as respect as a man does that you're so insecure about is not to do your best impression of one.
Yeah.
The best thing is to use your tools and acuity to prove yourself in your own way as equal. This is not going to do it. Liz Warren browbeating somebody with her little finger is not going to do it. It's not going to do it. Which is why Ann Coulter is a tough MF because she's her own person. You know, and it's just amazing. Now, so this thing really got good. because the Republicans decided to have fun with
should
this.
be allowed to serve without
Hold on,
limitation.
Kirsten. So here's one guy, Senator Tim Sheehy, who is funny and just had a bunch of fun. I mean, this is, if I was a Democrat, I'd probably hate this because it was schlocky and they're just playing off of each other. This is Tim Sheehy questioning him. Let's see if you can get this. Have you seen this yet? It's humor is about to happen now. I'm not condescending to you. I just want to see if you catch it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Pete, I'm actually going to ask you questions because I want to hear your answer. How many genders are there? Tough one.
Senator, there are 2 genders.
I know that well. I'm a Sheehy, so
I get it. His
You do?
name is She. I get it.
I'm on board. What is the diameter of the rifle round fired out of an M4A1 rifle?
That's a 5.56.
How many push-ups can you do?
I did 5 sets of 47 this morning.
Toxic.
What do you think are most important strategic bases in the Pacific?
In the Pacific, Guam is pretty strategically significant.
How many rounds of 5.56 can you fit into the magazine of an M4 rifle?
Depends on the magazine, but standard issue is 30.
Goes on like this for a while. Bro talk, which I love. You know, that the left is having to sit around and see this happen. How do you think Kirsten Sinema felt about that? So here's this guy really ruled the day. This is Senator Mark Wayne Mullen, and he had fun with this. Absolute fun with this. He's another Republican.
Of the Secretary of Defense is, because I Googled it and went through a lot of different sites, and really it's hard to see, but in general, the U.S. Secretary of Defense position is filled by a civilian. That's it. If you have served in the U.S. Army Forces and have been in the service for, you have to be retired for at least 7 years, and Congress can weigh that. And then there's questions that the senator from Massachusetts brought up about serving on a board inside the military industry, and yet your own secretary that you all voted for, Secretary Austin, we had to vote on a waiver because he stepped off the board of Raytheon. But I guess that's okay because that's a Democrat Secretary of Defense. But you so quickly forget about that. And then Senator Kaine, or I guess I better use the senator from Virginia, starts bringing up the fact that what if you showed up drunk to your job? How many senators have showed up drunk to vote at night? Have any of you guys asked them to step down and resign from their job? And don't tell me you haven't seen it because I know you have. And then how many senators do you know have got a divorce before cheating on their wives? Did you ask them to step down? No, but it's for show. You guys make sure you make a big show and point out the hypocrisy because the man's made a mistake. And you want to sit there and say that he's not qualified? Give me a joke. I mean, it is so ridiculous that you guys hold yourself as this higher standard and you forget you got a big plank in your eye. We've all made mistakes. I've made mistakes. And Jennifer, thank you for loving him through that mistake. Because the only reason why I'm here and not in prison is because my wife loved me too.
Good part of the performances today. All in all, the day started with uncertainty. It is not ending with uncertainty. The consensus is that this guy is in. And, you know...
well, like I say, it just doesn't seem like there's any... Like, how many Democrats do you know who are freaking out right now? Like, do you remember Trump term 1? How much, like, hair pulling and freaking out there was over every nominee? I mean, and they've, like, tried to recreate that kind of... But nobody is paying attention to this. Not, like, real, regular people.
Right.
You know, maybe the really politically engaged ones are running around going, oh my God, did you see who he appointed? But, I mean, I know we hang around with a lot of people who are into politics as a thing, but, like, most of the people at, like, our kids' basketball on Saturday morning do not know the name Pete Hegseth.
Exactly.
And, like, couldn't come up with it if you push them and you were like, who did Trump nominate for Secretary of Defense? They wouldn't have heard of any of this. which shows that it's different from the way it was the first time around when there was so much like blanket panic and like all this. This was like the thing to be into, and the pink hat, like women's marches and all this stuff. Like everybody was very like, we knew regular people who went to those.
Yes, but they were also swept up in their own hysteria. They thought that the election was stolen, that Trump was working with Putin, that it was, that the family was doing business in Moscow anyway, that they didn't find it to be a credible election anyway. And now here he goes, and he was, getting his radical team, which of course most of them were normies.
Yeah, that was like, I mean, they could have taken Trump term 1 and just let him have a normal presidency, and he would have been like the most moderate Republican to hold the office in 50 years or something. But instead, they, radicalized him completely. And so now they're going to get an administration of actual radicals. I mean, radicals who believe things that weren't radical 10 years ago. But whatever, it's fine. Like, there are 2 genders. But, he's going to get a cabinet of like true believers, and they've cried wolf so much that the American people just don't care anymore about this, because they screamed and cried and were hysterical for 4 straight years, and they blew it. There's nothing there. They have no credibility anymore.
Right.
Not the media, not the Democratic establishment, not anyone. And it's funny because there's all this debate on the right about like, should we accept Mark Zuckerberg's apology for everything he's done? Like, obviously he's a liberal. I don't know. Like, he's not on your team about conservative issues, but at the same time, we're experiencing a moment where the entire Democratic Party is imploding to the extent that people who don't even agree with the Republican Party are giving the Republican Party power instead of the Democratic Party. And you should just enjoy it and be happy that this is happening and get as much conservative stuff done as you can do with this mandate, because these moments don't last forever. This is obviously, Mark Zuckerberg is not going to be a quote unquote conservative for very long in the course of history.
And if you look at, what part of what he said to Rogan was, there comes a time when it's more like contemporarily acceptable to be more masculine in ways and things as we approach it. It's his way of saying, I see like being a pussy's not in anymore, so I'm going to grow my hair out, get a weird 1970s locket, and in my... Yeah.
We're having a cultural moment where the Democratic Party has become so pathologically uncool and weird and school marmy and immature, and just their whole brand is in the toilet, and they're embracing that more. Like, the further they go on, they can't help themselves.
Absolutely.
They're in a death spiral, and, you've scared off all the moderates.
And that's not at all, that's not just who you've scared off, but your policies have scared off all the businesses.
No, we need this. This is the closest pharmacy.
Remember, it was only 2 months ago when a car rammed into the front entrance of this location. Construction crews at the time said it was an unsuccessful attempt at breaking into the ATM and part of a concerning trend in the Bay Area.
It's disheartening, to say the least,
In a statement, Walgreens called the closures necessary and said increased regulatory and reimbursement pressures are weighing on our ability to cover the costs associated with rent, staffing, and supply needs. Although the company made no mention of crime or shoplifting as the reason, neighbors say they see it all the time.
I mean, I get it. I've seen horrible things happen in here. Like people stealing things, just coming in with bags and just going into their bag. I've seen kids, I've seen homeless people doing it, I've seen people that seem like they don't need to be doing it.
The Potrero Hill location is the same one, tied to a major Walgreens.
Yada, 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 more and more. And then you have people in Democratic elected leadership considered yes queens, considered icons, who come out and say some stuff like this. This is Jerry Callahan's congressman, Ayanna Presley.
Mr. Speaker, Walgreens is planning to close yet another pharmacy in the Massachusetts 7th, this time on Warren Street in Roxbury, a community that is 85% Black and Latino. This closure is a part of a larger trend of abandoning low-income communities like the previous closures in Mattapan and Hyde Park, both in the Massachusetts 7th. When a Walgreens leaves a neighborhood, they disrupt the entire community, and they take with them baby formula, diapers.
Who's disrupting the entire community? When
Walgreens.
Oh, I see. Okay.
They did that.
So it's Walgreens who's also abandoning. It's not Democratic policies that have abandoned Walgreens.
No, Walgreens has an obligation to the community.
Yes.
To continue to let merchandise walk out the door and lose money because people need baby formula.
Asthma inhalers, life-saving medications, and of course, jobs. These closures are not arbitrary and they are not innocent. They are life-threatening acts of racial and economic discrimination.
Talk about just
it's
fatigue.
Fascinating because it's like, Ayana, you didn't say it, or I didn't say it, you said it, that apparently they're having trouble keeping stores open in neighborhoods with higher percent of people of color. Like, you're telling me that's the pattern? Why is that the pattern? Like, just because Walgreens doesn't like making money from black people?
Right.
Well,
right. It is sorry.
Walgreens hates black people giving them money for services and goods.
And meanwhile,
that's
by the way,
the answer to that.
Right. In the
it's not her policies that have wrecked whole swaths of the black community.
Right.
That's not a possibility at all.
A guy, her predecessor, Mike Capuano, would have seen and identified the problem. But they don't want that.
Did she used to be a city councilor too, Ayanna Pressley?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought too. So, I mean, she's aware of all of the layers of the policy failures from top to bottom, right?
Of course.
From municipal up to federal.
But it can't be her, it can't be the Democrats. It has to be the racism of those on the right, and especially Donald Trump. And so the biggest tragedy going right now in LA is not the fires, it's that somebody like Trump would blame it on black people. Jimmy Kimmel here really splits hairs.
As you know, it has been a very scary, very stressful, very strange week here in LA, where we work, where we live, where our kids go to school. We are back in our studio, which we had to evacuate.
Speaking of pussies, can somebody take anybody who cries off of a comedy show? That was unfucking heard of, unthinkable in 1986. You just would never.
Yeah, but they started a trend back. I think maybe it was Jon Stewart who started it.
I consider him part of the problem, obviously.
It became a thing where oh, we're being serious on the comedy show, so now you know it's really serious.
Yes, Mr. Rumsfeld is that bad. This is that bad.
Right.
That's our building right there, the El Capitan. That is how close this fire was to our theater here. Many of us had to leave our homes in a hurry. Some of our coworkers lost their homes. That's Hollywood. It's been terrible. It's been terrible. Everyone who lives in this city knows someone, most of us, multiple people, families, friends, colleagues, neighbors whose houses burned down.
What's even worse than that you're about to hear? What's even worse?
And the truth is, we don't even know if it's over. We had 100-mile-per-hour winds fueling this nightmare. As of tonight, the winds are back. And I think I speak for all of us when I say it has been a sickening, shocking, awful experience, but has also been, in a lot of ways, a beautiful experience because once again, we see our fellow men and women coming together to support each other. People who lost their own homes were out volunteering in parking lots, helping others who lost theirs. And tonight, I don't want to get into all the vile and irresponsible and stupid things our alleged future president and his gaggle of scumbags chose to say during our darkest and most terrible.
You're already 15 seconds into doing what you said you don't want to do, which is the whole reason for this entire 2 minutes.
And by the way, and I've seen a few liberals do this, be like, see, Republicans cut the government and then there's no services to help people anymore. I'm like, I don't understand what Republicans are running anything in LA.
They are, Alice, our alleged next president.
Finding hour. The fact that they chose to attack our firefighters, who apparently aren't white enough to be out there risking their lives on our behalf, it's disgusting, but it's not surprising. Instead, I want to focus on thanking.
So that's what he's got out of this.
That was his takeaway from everything that's happened. He has no words of blame or condemnation for any of the politicians or policymakers or officials who spawned this nightmare on them.
We had a really good thing going here with all the DEI lesbians who were running all the thing. We had a really good thing. And you dare make fun of our thing? How dare you? This is not a time to ask questions and ask about policies and ask about, culture decisions within these institutions. How dare you? There's only one verdict that must be rendered right now, and that is that Donald Trump is a scumbag. Everything else was fine.
But see, Donald Trump gets elected, and look what happens. All of LA burns down. Like, that's their takeaway from this?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Here's Joe Biden losing his mind.
Establishment of the Highlands National Monument. Here we go.
Here we go.
Got to fill this in.
Oh.
I know, Santino, I'm trying. Why, the day of, in this hand, you'll fill in the dates here, guys?
Like, somebody just put this whimpering thing to bed. Okay, where else are we, Alice? Hold on. Let me see what we've got. All right. So, do you want to go to the chat?
I guess we should go to the chat because a baby is looking in the door at me. Hi.
Hi.
I'm talking to him.
Oh, I was thrilled with sexy voices on the chat.
No, I was talking to my baby. See his happy smile?
Oh, sorry. I don't know volume. Sorry about that. Maybe it will be somebody sexy.
I'm in Waltham right now, which is awful.
Hold on.
Hey, Alice and Tom. This is Dana from Maine. Hope all is well. It's been a while. I'm actually driving. I'm in Waltham right now, which is
there we
awful.
Go. Oh, come on.
And I was
Tom Wopat was arrested there. You know who Tom Wopat is, Alice?
No.
Luke Duke.
Listening to you guys talk about the age gap. I met my wife when I was 22. She was 18.
There we go.
And she was much more advanced than me mentally. I was an idiot. I worked at New England Medical Center down there, and when I was in school, I was in down in Chinatown. And this is just an example. When I was 22, a friend of mine that worked there, we worked in the OR, and we would go down for lunch, and we'd go over to Chinatown, and we'd stop at one of the strip clubs.
Here we go.
And we'd fumble around with our IDs so we could just get a quick show without actually paying
my
anything
goodness, that is fantastic. I applaud that. That is fantastic.
Wait, I don't understand.
Well, Albie. So they would go down to the Naked Eye or the Glass Slipper.
Okay.
Or there was the Centerfolds down there, I think. And they would, entering, when you're supposed to show your ID, they would both fumble with their wallets enough to gawk inside to see who was on stage before being removed. Because they were both 18.
Oh.
I say kudos.
I thought he was 22.
I don't know. I don't know. They fumbled with ID. He had no money. He was an idiot. That's what he's saying.
Okay.
Because those places are expensive, as you know.
I don't know.
And then we'd be in scrubs, and we'd have our food with us. And the guys, like, he caught on finally. We'd be doing it a couple weeks in a row. And that's what I was doing at 22. And at 18, she was much more mentally adept. Let's just put it that way. Anyways, we've been married for 26 years, so I guess it worked out. Have a good one. Happy New Year. And I wish I could make it to your party, but I can't. But enjoy. Have
Great
fun.
story. That's a classic story for the ages. Here you go. Congratulations on being married that long, by the way. So give me a second. Here, you start with
You're
this.
upsetting Pepper, James.
Here we go.
Tom, I may be dating myself a little bit on this reference, but you remind me of Benny Hill.
Of course I
when
remember
you were
him.
telling the story about pinching Alice. I mean, remember the beginning of the show when he would run around and try to pinch all the girls? Have you gotten to that level where you've become another Benny Hill? I mean, what's going on?
I did not like the Benny Hill show, but I do respect the virility and different flavor. Correct. These are, by the way, non-alcoholic cocktails that my son is having.
Oh, wait, I get it.
Good, right? It's a mule. It's a ginger lime mule.
Yeah,
Here we go.
I'm here in defense of Tom Shattuck.
Thank you.
Who was charged with being incorrigible, irresponsible.
Yes.
Even a bit pinchy on Sunday night.
That is correct.
True.
And I submit proof. Proof from a long time ago. And that would be January 10th of last week. Episode 1183. Literally, not literally. Where Alice Shattuck not only tacitly approves of this behavior, but blatantly encourages it.
Really?
Straight in there.
I don't stop Tom from doing like anything. Pretty much.
That's true.
Wow.
That's why
We
I'm
rest
stuck
our
with you
case.
like this.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you. Counsel has spoken, Alice. I believe the prosecution is throwing in the towel here. I am walking out a free man. Top of the world, Mom. There you go. There you go. Thinking you're only human, Alice, right? That's why I never had the Hegseth problems. I was always given. These were all wanted advances, you know, all wanted. I could tell beforehand. They would always say, "Just so you know, I do want you to make an advance." There's nothing that you could say right now to be unwanted or do right now to be unwanted. My life story. Thank you, Tim, for that. That is wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Hold on.
Thank you so much for listening, everybody. Appreciate all the chat messages. Appreciate everybody in the chat. Really excited to see everyone on Monday. 2 more shows this week before the weekend. We'll see you tomorrow night. If you want to join us for the live chat every day, patreon.com/burnbarrel. We'll do a little extra content there each week too. And burnbarrelpodcast.com.
C'est la vie.